Well, good afternoon. I am so excited to be here today. Hope everyone's having a fantastic day. I have a very beautiful, brilliant, and specially compassionate guest that's going to be joining us today, and that is Ms. Valerie Reid. So if you are an entrepreneur, first of all, you will be amazed and impressed with all the accomplishments this young lady has. But also, I think that her business is brilliant and very creative. I've never actually encountered anybody doing what she's doing, and the way she does it with such heart and kindness is truly remarkable. So to kick us off today, it is my pleasure to introduce you to Valerie Reid. She is the founder and CEO of Simple Cremation Services, excuse me. She is coming in from the New Jersey area to be with us today. So welcome, first of all, Valerie. Great to have
it's great to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, my pleasure. So let's start off. Can you tell everybody what your business is and specifically how you help families?
Absolutely. So I think the name kind of gives it away a little bit. So it's Simple Cremation Services. So we're actually an online platform that connects funeral homes and families who want to arrange a simple cremation online. So they don't need to go into the funeral home, but yet they're served by the funeral home wherever they are locally.
Okay, great. Now, you are doing this on a national basis, correct?
Yes, that's right.
So not to be in any way disrespectful, but curiosity, because I think people will wonder, well, why would I arrange something like this online? And I know that you have really powerful reasons why you do it this way to help people. Can you share that?
Yeah, absolutely. So initially, when the idea and concept was developed nationally, it was really a way for funeral homes to offer a service at a price that was a little bit below their walk-in price. So they had the opportunity to kind of diversify their services, and they jumped on it. They thought that was really great, and they didn't want to lose the customer that just couldn't manage the price that they had already advertised. So they were able to scoop up those people on the side and also increase their geographic marketplace. So in terms of the customer, they thought, well, gosh, I don't even have to go leave my home. I mean, one time we had somebody driving through Dunkin' Donuts and believe it or not, hold up, light sugar and coffee as they were talking and trying to assess their, their options on the arrangement front. So yeah, good for consumers and also good for the funeral homes.
That had to be extraordinarily helpful to people, especially during COVID, I would imagine.
Yes, absolutely. And it's funny, more than just the increase, unfortunately, the sad fact that there were so many deaths here in the US and globally with the pandemic. It really was because people couldn't travel. So they didn't feel comfortable. Many people going into the funeral home. And then if let's say your relative is in, we had a gentleman who was in Hawaii and his mother passed away in Minnesota. Well, he wasn't able to hop on a plane, but he was able to arrange a cremation online with a very, very reputable, trusted funeral home in Minnesota.
Wow. And now that in some places things have opened back up, and I don't know if we could say normal yet, but things have returned to closer to what they used to be. Is there still a long distance benefit? I would imagine if you have someone and they are in another area, it's probably easier to go through you if you're not near a funeral home. Is that correct?
Yeah. The funny thing is, if we think about our life, over the last 5 or 10 years, first of all, the internet has kind of taken a grip on our lives, right? So a lot of people, instead of even calling, they'll log on to Google or Bing or whatever and figure out the pricing. So that kind of drove the behavior a little bit. And then with schedules and then families, there's been a geographic disbursement of families all across the US, unlike, let's say, 50 years ago, where all the families would be around a community. Now you've got a brother, sister, mother, cousin. They're all over the place, not only in the US, but internationally. So that's also driven the behavior, and kind of it's been a sweet spot, a little bit of a perfect storm for our services.
And then I would imagine, like you said, if families are spread out, let's say, unfortunately, someone loses a parent and a sister lives in one state and a brother lives in one state, it's possible for them to handle this from wherever they are and share the responsibilities, I would guess.
Yes, that's a really great point. So that's, sometimes there's not too much information, but there's some, family background information that you have to dig up. And often you're right. Someone in California will have a piece, and someone in South Carolina might have another piece, and they can all hop onto the account and put in the information. It's all saved in one spot.
And is there also a benefit, let's say someone lives right in the same state? There, you mentioned a pricing benefit as well, so that probably helps. And are you able to help with some of the logistics for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the funeral homes love to serve people, and ideally they'd love to serve them in person. I mean, that's just the reality of it all. But sometimes it's just not practical for the person to get out of the house or get out of where they are. So there's that practicality piece, and then the funeral home, of course, they once the arrangement is made, they're in touch by phone. They help with, any sort of planning after. So they're in the mix and connected to the families that way too. So we're just kind of I like to say we're like the electronic door. We're just another door for them. They're walking through, and then they're connected with the funeral home, which is great.
Well, it fascinates me what you do, because unfortunately I have lost, a parent years ago. And there's the grieving, there's the heartbreak. And for me, going to the funeral home, that was brutal. I mean, it's just so emotionally difficult, but somebody in the family has to do it. Someone has to handle that. Someone has to go in there. And I would have personally loved to have some way to just be with my family and go through what I was going through, and not have to go in and go through just some of the awful realities of
Right.
funeral planning. And so I think what you're doing, no matter where somebody is, gives some people emotional relief as well.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's a great point, Leanne, because it's not for everyone. That's what I say to people. An online cremation arrangement is not for everyone. So in my personal circumstance, I have lost all of my immediate family, in terms of my family of origin. Thank goodness my husband and 3 children are very well.
Yeah.
But the first to go was my brother, and he died very tragically. He was murdered. So it was really a shock to our family.
Yeah.
And frankly, the funeral home we did not know what to do. So they were so helpful for us. So in that situation, it was wonderful to have the funeral home. And then my mother passed away, but she wanted to donate her body to science. And that was almost the closest to simple cremation. That's really one of the reasons why this made so much sense to me personally, because I really needed there really wasn't a way just to have a simple cremation. She was living with us, and she was away from her home at the time, which is Florida. And we just wanted to do something simple. And then my father died, and he was a big figure in his community and his profession. So we needed the help of, we wanted to, of course, have a wake. And that was a wonderful thing for us as a family. Again, it was quite a sudden death. And that was, again, wonderful. So it really depends on the situation. It's not the right fit for each time, but when, as you said, you mentioned your own experience would be a perfect fit then, or it fits many situations, but not every single one, because the grief is real. I mean, it doesn't take away from that, for sure.
And I'm so sorry I know all the losses you've been through with your family.
Thank you.
A lot for sure. So, let's go to something a little more positive. I know you have helped a lot of families.
Yes.
And could you share with us, maybe pick one story of some place where you really felt like your company and what you do made a difference for someone?
Sure. Gosh, there are just so many many times. Yeah. So we just recently we had a lovely family who is COVID related, and they lost their father, and then their parents were married, I think, for 62 years, and they weren't able to come into the funeral home. They had relatives in different parts of the country, and we managed to really help her on the phone. It was a very distressing situation for her. She lost her father, and then she knew that her mother wasn't far behind. So she was able to take comfort in talking to us, saying, "I know you're going to help me if we need it with Mama." And I said, "Absolutely, we will." And just a couple days it was actually just a couple days ago, she called back and said, yeah, we need your help again. So it was really, heartwarming to be able to, know her, have that relationship, and have her continue on with her, the life that she needed to lead, and help her with that. And then also just be a nice conduit for the funeral home who served her well too.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's so special about what your company does is honestly you. For those of you watching, I have known Valerie for quite a long time, and she is just a gentle and kind soul. So somebody who has an unlimited amount of compassion for other people. And since you shared a little bit about some of the tragedies that have happened in your family, you're really in a position to reach people. But just like anyone in the medical industry or in the funeral industry, when you're dealing with constant exposure to people who are frightened, grieving, sad, you have to pull your strength from somewhere. How do you stay the kind, warm, positive person and not let all that bring you down so that you can still give out to other people? How do you do that?
Oh, that's a great question. And it literally does not bring me down. So that's a great, great way to look at it. I just know that I've been there myself. So I really put myself in their shoes, and I know how much, you know, servant professionals help me with my grieving. It was almost as if you're lending a hand, you're lending an arm at a time where people really, really need it. And they're so full of gratitude, and they're so thankful that, we were able to handle them gently in a time that they really needed that gentle treatment. So, I pull it from within, and I'm just really grateful that I can help people, and I get a lot of gratitude from our customers, and it really is, I mainly, unfortunately, right now only deal with Americans, not Canadians yet, or any global citizens, but people just we're all human beings, and we all, have that same heart, and I just love touching the hearts, and helping everybody in their situation of need.
Yes, you have an incredibly kind soul. So one of the things I do want to take a minute though and ask you is, you would think if somebody's watching this that from your personal experiences and the things that's happened, that would have driven you into this industry. Typically, when I've met people who work in the funeral industry, it's very common that it's a family business that's passed on generation to generation. It tends to be very male dominated. But what's wild about you is your background, your education and your professional background are off the charts. Lived in other parts of the world. You are an international consultant with Deloitte. Like, you have a PhD. I mean, can you tell everybody, don't be too modest, but a little bit about your professional track and then how you shifted and ended up doing what you're doing now?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I know, it's crazy, right? If you think about it. I didn't aim and shoot and end up here for sure. I think anything in life and careers, it kind of evolves one step at a time. And, I remember, being 17, my twin daughters are going to college, in the next couple of weeks. And, the college interviewer asked me, what do you want to do with your life? And all I thought was, oh my God, that's a great question. I have no idea. So I knew I wanted to be a mom from, the day dot. I knew that. So, but I didn't think that was the appropriate response. So I made something up on the spot. And I just look now, fast forward to my daughters and how much they're in marketing and business backgrounds. I got it all, sorted out. Me, I didn't have a clue. I just knew that I like to do multiple things at one time. And then as a CEO right now, I'm thinking, oh, that's what I was meant to do. Because you really have to look at all aspects of the business, the strategic, the operational, the details up and down and all sorts. But then I really didn't know. So when I went to college, and I actually did get into a college, I did an internship and loved the fact that my background really meshed with work. And I love, bringing my skills to people. So I'm a people person. I love working with people. And I ended up using some, analytical skills to do some public service. And then I moved on to consulting, and I love solving problems. So that's a big thing that I like to do. So that's why with every person who comes to us with Simple Cremation Services, there's a little issue that they have to work out. Love to solve that. But fast forward to 15 years into my Deloitte career and many, many years of other things, consulting wise, et cetera. And I realized that in order to really have that work-life balance, by that time I had 3 children. I knew that, it's a very, high-powered and very time-consuming job, which I loved every single minute of it. But the balance really was off. So I thought to myself, well, why not? I'd always wanted to start a company. So I jumped out and I did. So sometimes your ideas are bigger than the reality. So it took me some, the whole lesson of it takes 3 times longer and twice as much money. Yeah, I probably did that, 10x that one, but, was able to come up with the idea with a partner and then did some consulting work in this area. And I just took one step, failed once, failed twice, and then, gosh, we built something that people really love. So
You have to fail at least once or twice to be successful in business. I don't know anybody who just jumps out of the gate and it's all rainbows and puppies.
I know it's
like that.
that's just that I learned too. I learned that, the whole fact that if you don't fail, you're not growing, right? So
Correct. Yeah.
It was a hard lesson to learn.
Entrepreneurs out there, put your seatbelt on because prepare yourself to fall down quite a few times, but that's part of the journey.
But isn't it different than if you're in a professional career? I know that you were an attorney. You did everything not to make a mistake. Oh my God. I mean, you were like me, like, oh, the last thing on earth you wanted to do is make a mistake. But here we make them and we fix them and we move on.
Yes. So now that you're in this position, let's talk about that work-life balance. How is this better for you? As you mentioned, your son's out and about as an adult. You have 2 daughters that are about to enter college. How has this been a different experience for you and improved your quality of life being an entrepreneur?
Great question, because you have to really get to the point where you're leveraging your time. That's the whole key. You have to leverage your time with something that's going to bring in income when you're not there, So I have been in my career, I did have my own consulting company for, pockets that I needed to, and that was great. But without me consulting, there wasn't any income. So I was really looking for an opportunity where I was able to create some income and leverage my time. And this beautiful website does that. So when I sleep, and when I'm doing other things, I have the website is running, and of course we have people to help folks with any questions that they have as well. So it's given me some real flexibility once it's built. So it doesn't happen overnight. You still have to put in the work in the beginning, but once you build that, machine is probably a little bit harsh, but you know what I mean, something that really will take you forward. Then you can have that freedom and flexibility. And the internet is great. And look at this, it's right here. I mean, that remember the days of the BlackBerry? That is what freed me to be able to work on a part-time basis in consulting, which was really like a normal full-time job. But I leverage technology a lot. So.
And that's really a gift to any parent. I know you are equally proud of all 3 of your children, but I also know that you have one that requires quite a bit of travel. So maybe you want to share a minute about how you're bebopping around the country with a horse and how that is helpful to have an online business.
Right. Just like this business grew, I had no idea when I said, sure, I think my daughter would, she wanted to show horses when we didn't have a horse. And so she did, and we were renting or leasing. And then of course we just had to buy because that's always better. And so last couple of years, she has been showing all over the country. And it's been great to be able to see her dream come true and just to follow her passion. It's been awesome. And I've been loving it's not quite like a dance mom, but it's pretty close to be a horse mom. So you really have to really stay in your own lane, make sure you're not getting into all that barn drama. But it's been really great to be able to move around and, have the flexibility. Yeah. And I'm often answering a call or on my phone or, getting my computer hooked up, and you don't even want to know where I am. Yeah. Got that.
I think one of the other things with many sports, it's the same thing for people who have children that, run in track, et cetera. Right. Sometimes you're at an event all day, but your son or daughter will be, depending on what the sport is, active for maybe 15, 20 minutes, but you're there all waiting for their turn. So
yes.
it's wild. You can, run a business while you're waiting to watch your horse and your
I know. I remember one call distinctly, like walking around a ring, just to get some exercise too, or waiting and waiting and waiting, but being able to help a gentleman who was planning a cremation for his partner, and it was hard for him. He called back multiple times, which was totally fine. I was walking anyway, so I just walked him through it. So, you really make it a win-win as much as you can.
Well, you have done so much, for so many people. What are your plans? Do you have growth plans or a vision or things that you want to change, or where do you want to go in, let's say, the next 5 years or so?
Oh, that's a great question. Oh my goodness. So I would really, really like to take our business to a completely new level, 20 times the amount of providers who are across the country. We definitely have pockets that we don't serve yet. I really would like it to be, I don't mean to be crass, but like what Kleenex is to tissue, I would like to be in terms of the online, the only place that people go. And at the moment, we are the market makers, and there's no other competition nationally. So it's been really, really a blessing to be in that spot. And we want to really help the funeral homes as well as help the consumers, both sides, just to give them another option. And as consumers continue, and they do already come to the site, we can leverage our brand name for the funeral homes, and of course offer the consumers a better option.
So they go to your site, but they do get a kind human that's going to help them, just to make sure that's very clear.
Yes, if they need it, but some people would prefer not to, and that's okay.
So that's an option too, if somebody doesn't want to talk, or
right, or the funeral home is working with them, and they send them to the funeral, to the site as well. So there's all sorts of different permutations, but they get served, in whatever way they need. So we're very respectful of whatever service level they'd like. Yeah.
Well, it's really interesting, because I'm usually so enthusiastically hoping that people will, if we bring an entrepreneur in here for an interview, that they will, go to that person. And though I enthusiastically would recommend you, I hope they don't need you for quite a while. It's a little bit awkward, but if somebody does, it is amazing to have somebody who has integrity and compassion and has a system in place to help.
Yeah.
It can be overwhelming for sure.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Yeah, and I agree. Whenever I talk to anyone I talked to someone today, and I said, she was pre-planning something for her dad, and I said, well, listen, first of all, I hope it's not going to be, I hope it's a long way off. And that's how I started. And she said, oh, yes, he's fine. He just wants to get things sorted out and taken care of. I said, totally love that. We'd love to help him do that. So we're all about longevity, but when there is a circle of life. So when that happens, we'd love to be there to help them.
Now, if people want to connect with you, first, can you give your website out, please?
Oh, sure. Super simple. www.simplecremationusa.com. Yeah, the Simple Cremation Services. So that's our easy to remember website. So wherever you are in the USA, you just hop on up.
And some people will see this on YouTube, and some people will see this in Facebook. But if you're in the SLAE Facebook group, you're in there, so they can reach out to you, correct?
Absolutely. I'd love to help answer any questions or help with anything, and not just with our site, just in general. If you have questions of how to plan it, what to do, what do I need, we're really there for anybody who calls. If it's with us, fabulous. If it's not, that's okay too. We're just here as a good resource for people to have the best experience in a very, very trying time.
Yes, you are an amazing resource. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Welcome.
And not only sharing what you do, but also letting people understand, so that if and when they need a service like this, they know that something like you exists out there.
Great. We'd love to serve anyone who needs our help.
I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.